Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're going straight into a really tough one, a recent devastating event, the July 2025 Texas Hill Country Deluge. Our mission really is to take you beyond just the headlines. We want to unpack the immense human and economic toll and explore the crucial questions this raises. Questions about preparedness, resilience, and, our changing climate. We pulled together a comprehensive stack of sources, news reports, meteorological analyses, all of it to give you the key insights. Clear, concise, without getting overwhelmed.
That's right. We're basically distilling the core knowledge from all these different sources, helping you understand not just what happened, but maybe more importantly, why it matters, and what lessons, what we can maybe learn from it. Think of it as, well, your shortcut to getting really informed on this pretty complex disaster.
Okay, let's unpack this incredible force of nature. When you look at the raw data, the reports on this flood, what strikes you first about the sheer power, the speed?
Well, what's truly astonishing, I think, based on our sources, is the incredibly rapid onset, just how fast it happened. The heavy rains started late on July 3rd, but they really hit hard overnight into July 4th and kept going through the 7th. And this wasn't just, a typical heavy rainstorm. Our sources say it was fueled by something pretty specific, a mesoscale convective vortex.
A mesoscale convective vortex.
You can think of it like a concentrated, swirling low-pressure system within the larger storm, and it carried tropical moisture, leftovers from Tropical Storm Barry, straight into the hill country.
Like a focused stream of moisture.
Mhm.
And the rainfall totals from that water bomb, basically, they were just staggering, weren't they?
Oh, unbelievable. Yeah. Our research shows some areas got 5 to 11 inches of rain in just a few hours. And even more shocking, other spots, up to 20 inches in that incredibly short window.
20 inches, wow. When that much water falls that fast, the landscape just fundamentally changes. How did the Guadalupe River specifically transform? From, a river to what one source starkly called a wall of water.
It's almost hard to picture, honestly. Our sources describe the Guadalupe surging by an astonishing 26 to 29 feet.
Feet?
Feet, yeah. In under an hour.
Under an hour.
Imagine that kind of volume, that speed. It wasn't a gradual rise at all. It was an incredibly rapid, destructive transformation, turning this familiar river into something, well, terrifying.
And with that kind of sudden, immense flood, the human cost, it must have been just heartbreakingly high. What are the sources telling us about the toll on lives?
The human cost it's truly devastating. Tragically, this event claimed at least 121 lives statewide, and the epicenter clearly was Kerr County. That includes places like Hunt and Kerrville. They reported a staggering 95 to 96 deaths just in that county alone.
95 or 96.
Yeah.
It's awful. And there's some specific stories of loss, too, right, that really paint a picture of the tragedy.
Yes, the reports have some particularly heartbreaking details. Among those lost were 27 girls and counselors from Camp Mystic, and there were still additional people from the camp unaccounted for when these reports came out, and just a heartbreaking number of children overall. Over 36 kids died, including a little toddler, 20 months old, named Clay Perisher.
Oh, that's just terrible.
Yeah, and the sheer number of missing people also just underscores the chaos, the scale. Between 160 and maybe 180 plus individuals reported missing statewide, and about 166 of those were concentrated right there in Kerr County.
So beyond Kerr County, which obviously bore the brunt, what other areas felt this huge human impact? And are there any sort of personal stories lost, but maybe resilience, too, that stood out from the sources?
Yeah, fatalities were also reported in Travis County, so that includes Austin, and Burnett, Kendall, Williamson, Tom Green counties, too. And amidst all that devastation, you do have these stories like 17-year-old Malaya Hammond, a truly heroic teen who saved her family when their van went off a bridge near Marble Falls, but she tragically lost her own life doing it.
Wow.
Then you have these sort of unexpected glimmers of hope, maybe. In Center Point, a couple, the Riches, they miraculously found their treasured wedding album during the cleanup. Their home was completely destroyed, but they found the album.
Something small but meaningful, I guess, in all that loss.
Exactly. And then, just to show the breadth of the impact, economically, the NG Supercars dealership in Liberty Hill, 3 feet of water inside, destroyed several Ferraris, a Jaguar, a Porsche, totaled about $1.5 million in losses right there.
Right. It hits everything. Homes, lives, businesses, even high-end car dealerships.
Yeah, a stark reminder that a flood like this impacts every single aspect of a community.
Those details, from the tragic loss of life to, the supercar dealership, it paints such a vivid picture of how widespread this was. It brings us to a really critical question, one highlighted in our sources.
Yeah.
With such a rapid, destructive event, how prepared were these communities? What kind of warnings actually went out?
That's a crucial point. And the sources indicate that, yes, warnings were issued. Over 50 flash flood alerts went out, starting as early as July 2nd and 3rd. And then multiple emergency warnings were declared on July 4th itself. So the information, at least in theory, it was out there.
50 alerts.
Yeah.
Yet the human toll, especially in Kerr County, was still immense. That feels like a disconnect somewhere. What did the sources explore about why those warnings might not have been, well, more effective?
This is where it gets really complex and, frankly, quite difficult. Despite those warnings, our reports highlight what they call significant preparedness gaps, particularly in Kerr County. The question kept coming up. Why, with all those alerts, was the human toll so incredibly high? The sources point to things like reported lacking evacuation systems, lacking siren systems in Kerr County, and furthermore, some officials reportedly didn't trigger the mass alerts, the kind that go to everyone's phones, which led to confusion, kind of mixed responses in the community, and that hindered evacuations.
And there's been a lot of debate, right? Scrutiny about how those warnings were handled.
Absolutely. The scrutiny has been intense. Questions came up about underestimating the warnings, maybe inconsistent risk communication. There was even a debate mentioned about whether prior budget cuts to weather services might have hampered forecasting capabilities, though it's fair to say officials have pushed back on some of those claims. It just highlights this complex interplay, between the technology, the human response, the policies in place.
Right, but despite those challenges, the critiques, the actual response on the ground, the rescue efforts, that was a massive undertaking, showcasing some incredible human effort.
Without a doubt, thousands of volunteers. The sources say over 2,000 people joined local, state, federal teams. You had the Salvation Army, even rescuers from Mexico came to help, all involved in search and recovery. And the reports indicate over 400 people were rescued, which, given the conditions, is pretty remarkable, a testament to those efforts.
And those efforts are still,
Yeah.
they're very much ongoing, right, even now.
That's right. As of July 10th, when a lot of these reports were filed, crews were still, diligently recovering bodies, searching those huge debris fields along the Guadalupe. It's a long, hard road to recovery.
Looking at the immediate aftermath, the community response, what consistently stands out to you from the sources? How people reacted to such immense loss?
I think the overwhelming sense of community resilience, it's truly striking. Volunteers, churches, fire departments, just local residents really banding together for cleanup, distributing supplies, starting on structural recovery. It just demonstrates that powerful spirit, a community coming together when faced with something truly unimaginable.
Okay, so if we zoom out a bit, connect this to the bigger picture.
Yeah.
What's happening at the governance level? Actions being taken. And what about those broader implications like the climate context?
Well, at the state level, Texas Governor Abbott moved quickly, declared a state of emergency in multiple counties. And significantly, he's called a special legislative session starting July 21st, specifically to address flood warning systems and relief efforts. So direct legislative action is planned. And federally, President Trump signed a disaster declaration that enabled FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, to deploy resources, aid directly to the affected areas. Crucial support.
In the climate context you mentioned earlier, experts are increasingly cautioning about this. How does this specific event fit into that larger conversation?
Indeed. It's a vital piece of the puzzle. Experts suggest climate change isn't just about, say, the frequency of floods, but their intensity, especially the rate at which water falls. One key insight from our sources really highlights this. A warmer atmosphere acts like a giant sponge. It holds vastly more moisture. So when a system like that mesoscale convective vortex comes along, it taps into that moisture, and it's not just rain, it's like a water bomb scenario.
Right.
This kind of paradigm shift means our historical flood models, maybe even our infrastructure design, might be increasingly out of sync with these new hyper-intense rainfall events.
That's a sobering thought. Our sources also mentioned something that, unfortunately, often pops up after big disasters. Misinformation.
Yeah, it's really vital to address this because it can seriously hinder effective response and recovery efforts. Specifically, claims linking this flood to cloud seeding operations. They were thoroughly debunked. Meteorologists, officials, all very clear. Absolutely no link between any weather modification and this disaster. It's just a good reminder, really, to always rely on verified official sources, especially during a crisis.
Absolutely. Okay, so Looking at the grim history books,
Yeah.
how does this July 2025 flood stack up against other major disasters nationally and within Texas?
Well, the sheer scale definitely places it among the deadliest. Our sources indicate this flood ranks as the deadliest inland flash flood in the U.S. since that devastating 1976 Big Thompson Canyon flood in Colorado.
Since 1976. Wow.
Yeah, and specifically for Texas, with over 121 fatalities confirmed so far, and that estimated $18 billion in damage. It unfortunately ranks as the third deadliest disaster in the state's history,
Yeah.
behind only the 2021 winter freeze and Hurricane Rita back in 2005.
Third deadliest in Texas history. That really puts the magnitude into perspective. This deep dive into the Texas Hill Country deluge. It truly brings into sharp focus, doesn't it? Both the immense raw power of nature and the incredibly complex human response to such a crisis. We've looked at the tragic human toll, we've seen these remarkable acts of heroism, and we've had to grapple with those critical questions about preparedness, about warning systems.
And the story isn't over, not by a long shot. As we discussed, that legislative session in Texas is coming up. Recovery efforts will continue for a long, long time. This event really challenges all of us, I think, to think critically about how communities can become more resilient, better prepared in the face of what seems to be increasingly intense and unpredictable weather.
So wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you listening? Beyond the immediate recovery, maybe consider this. How do we, as a society, strike that balance between the need for personal responsibility when disaster strikes and the absolute imperative for robust, publicly funded preparedness, for warning systems that actually work, especially as the climate continues to shift and potentially produce more events of this magnitude? It's definitely a question worth mulling over long after this deep dive concludes.